listening to Unscripted Moments, a podcast about propaganda. On this episode, we're discussing This Is Your Life, track number 5 on 2009's Supporting Caste. And if you're not a patron of Chris Hanna's Patreon, we got to remind you that Chris, Todd, and Jord just did on Catastrophic Break with Consensus Reality this song. They covered it in a 2-hour plus video chat, which is available to the patron members. It's moving, it's deep, it's personal, it's funny.
Yeah.
And Greg and I both highly recommend it. So, of course, thanks to them for telling the full stories of supporting Caste, but also illuminating some of the personal context behind, the meaning lyrically, but also musically, the inspiration for This Is Your Life as a whole.
Absolutely. I love that. And I love how Chris put in all kinds like video graphics and like, pictures from throughout the recording process and things like that. So if you're on the Patreon, you can go see a lot of like some insider photos from when the band recorded this. They have like practice space pictures from Chris's basement when they used to play at his house. And it's just really awesome, and you get to hear stories about Beeve, and it's just really, really cool. But, so it's also really funny, Keith, that it's 7 a.m. We've never recorded an episode at 7 o'clock in the morning before. So if our voices sound like super crazy, like morning voice or whatever, it's that's why. So if we sound a little weird on this one, it's because we're a little loopy and we're still getting our coffee into us. How are you feeling this morning, Keith? You doing okay?
I am chugging some local Metropolis coffee from Chicago right now. So
nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Well,
be patient with us. And Greg, I want to say real quick about the Chris Hanna's newest episode that I'm not super big into watching things on YouTube, like long form YouTube videos. I mean, sometimes there's content that I appreciate. So I didn't actually think I would want to watch a conversation like that. I thought just the podcast, like listening to the audio version, would be what I would prefer, since that's mostly what I do. But one, it being perhaps a novelty for me, and two, just being really well done. I think it being edited well, it having those funny Easter eggs thrown in, it made for a different experience that in terms of the content that Chris has put out. And what I think I appreciated the most about this, and also the last Chris, Todd, and Jord episode, is that it felt very much like you were just there in a live conversation. Like they were live streaming it, and you got to just kind of hear people chat and talk, and it has structure, but it's also clearly organic, in which it goes places perhaps they didn't anticipate. And for that, I think it just adds to the variety of content that Chris has been able to produce, from his more scripted narrative based episodes to the question and answer ones. I think his ability to bring a lot of different things to the table and to change it up has really, kept me interested and kept me engaged on that page.
Yeah, and to me, This Is Your Life conversation with Todd is so thrilling, because we had Todd on for Dark Matters. So Todd is talking to us about that particular song and some of the lyrical content within that song. And I actually see this song, This Is Your Life, as being the first song in a trilogy of Todd songs across the Supporting Cast, Failed States, and Victory Lap LPs.
Yeah, I remember this fan theory. This is great.
Yeah. And so I'm going back to my theory. I think I talked about this on both of those other episodes on Negretto and Dark Matter. So we actually kind of did this trilogy, like not in the correct order, but I see this as being part 1 in a 3-album trilogy, where This Is Your Life refers to a childhood of growing up in a house that's consumed by anger. And then that's continued with Dark Matters, where, the son who grows up in this household of anger goes out, who had seen his father's life falling apart, but then he grows up and then he's out in the world, and in Dark Matters, he's watching everyone else's lives fall apart too. Like life has taken its toll, you know?
Right.
And then part 3 is the conclusion of Negretto, where the character, whoever that is in the listener's mind, sees the total decline and sings after it's too late. They want to come back to life, but they're drowning in a sea so endless. You see them come up for air, they go under forever. Squeezing Hands of Fate, Life Can't Be Replaced. So it's like we have this 3-album trilogy of the childhood in This Is Your Life. The child grows up into a person and then just sees the pain in the world and Dark Matters. And then at the end, we revisit the original story of the parent who lived consumed in anger and then passes away in Negretto. So I really am thrilled that we are actually doing this song now, because then to me that sort of concludes this trilogy of episodes that we've done on these 3 songs. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's a great connection. And one of my favorite things about doing this podcast, obviously, is coming up with new interpretations or hearing you explain something in ways that I hadn't really thought before. But I really don't think I connected songs, whether it's these 3 or, like Potemkin City Limits, even with Purina Hall of Fame, like those almost like clear connections and thematic ideas that string across those records. I feel like I've picked up so much more of those, having conversations with you, Greg, but also, with our guests, and also with like all of our chats with people on social media. There's just so much that I've thought of that I hadn't before, to where you almost settle in your own interpretation and you settle in like your own thoughts about it, and you don't have an opportunity to bounce them off other people. So that's one of my favorite things that we've been able to do with this, is to kind of bring more interpretations to the table and hear what other people have to say.
Well, speaking of hearing what other people have to say, we have something really fun that we did for this episode. So a while back, I was on Propagandy's Bandcamp, and, everybody knows that the supporting cast demos are, available in full on the Bandcamp page at propagandy.bandcamp.com. So if there's a Bandcamp Friday or something that comes up anytime soon that you want to support the band, these demos are fabulous. The caption on their Bandcamp reads, "These are the most complete demos we recorded in Chris's basement for the album Supporting Cast in October 2008, just before we went down to the blasting room to make the real record with Bill Stevenson and Jason Livermore for super fans only." But I was listening to these demos because I usually listen to the Supporting Cast record when we do a Supporting Cast episode, just to kind of like, get a feel for the progression. And these demos are so good. But one thing I noticed is that there are no vocals on the This Is Your Life song, which they talked about on Chris's Patreon. But something that I thought would be super funny is seeing if we could do listener supported vocal covers or listener sung vocal covers.
Yeah.
And so, there's that song on Where Quantity Is Job Number One compilation called Contest Song, where they recorded something for Less Talk More Rock that never got finished. And it's just a blank, the vocalist instrumental on that Quantity compilation. And on the inside liner notes, they were like, "Hey, sing over this and maybe we'll put it on the next Propagandy record." And I was thinking like, wow, this Is Your Life song has no vocals. I wonder if anybody out there would be willing to sing over it. So all you got to do is get the song, drop it into Bandcamp or Logic or whatever you use to record, and just go for it. And we got 4 submissions. 4 folks gave it a go.
And they're so good.
They're so good.
Oh, they're so good.
I know. So we've got 4 submissions. So we're going to do these throughout the episode. Like every now and then on this episode, I'm just going to throw a vocal cover in. So before we get to our interview section, we're going to launch right into a vocal cover. And this first vocal cover is with a past guest of the show. It is Tim Browne, vocalist and guitarist for the band Elway. He was on our Lotus Gate episode, which is I loved having this conversation with Tim, and I'm so pumped that Tim was willing to do this. So our first vocal cover is Tim Browne from Elway. Take it away, Tim.
Really bad and red or I can't stand. Filling out the fact that your wife can't stand you anymore. Don't know where she is. You're going crazy in your basement hole. Clicking your remote control. Spinning he gets all touch the screen. Cause tomorrow you're back at work, where you get sick being the little man. By your brother then you can get ahead. No one really laughs at your stories anymore. You're the cynical and me they fuck on board. You get to rap them all, but just sit and stare at the walls. You think you tell it like it is. You say you get the bleeding hearts, but every single day you just sit there bleeding for yourself. You whine and cry in a manly voice. This is your life. No! Do it to yourself, take the load off your mind. Go out to the world, you'll see you'll probably survive. This is your life.
Oh my gosh, that was so gnarly. Tim Browne, you rock. Also, the new Elway record is done. Tim rules. Thank you so much for doing that, Tim. We love you.
All right, Greg, well, let's get to our guest. Tell us about who you talked to for This Is Your Life.
Okay, so our guest on this episode is Mitch Paglia, who is the bassist for Western Addiction on Fat Records, and he was also the former bassist of the band Nothington. And you'll remember that we had Jason Hall, lead singer and of Western Addiction and former Fat Records employee, on the Life Disconnect episode. So Mitch is in the band with Jason. And I have a fun story about Mitch. One of the reasons I was super pumped to talk to him is that I was thinking, I used to read this online music zine in the 1990s called I Dunno. So it was IDUNNO.
Mm-hmm.
And it was an online zine written by a guy in California and a guy in St. Louis. And I read it with my friends practically every single day. And I actually became friends with the guy who was the St. Louis guy. And we would go to shows together. And the California guy named Mitch, turns out to be this exact same Mitch. So when I saw the name Mitch Paglia pop up on the latest Western Addiction record, like my high school years flashed before my eyes.
That's so cool.
Dude, it's crazy. I used to read this guy's zine like every single day in the mid to late 90s. And it was just something that I would do. I'd come home from school, I'd fire up the computer, I'd go on my, 20-hour AOL disc or whatever, and I would read this zine. So my high school years like flashed before my eyes when Mitch Paglia popped up, and I knew I had to get Mitch on the show to talk propaganda because he's a huge fan. So he's also in Western Addiction, and their new record is Frail Bray, and Mitch is on that record, and it's so fantastic. So here is our second episode featuring a member of Western Addiction, Mitch Paglia. Here we go. We're going to talk about all things propaganda, and This Is Your Life. Mitch Paglia, welcome to Unscripted Moments, a podcast about propaganda.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
I'm delighted to have you here, Mitch. So before we get into our chat tonight, I'm wondering if you can just sort of introduce yourself a little bit to the audience in case they don't know you. Tell a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Sure. My name is Mitch Paglia. I play in the band Western Addiction. I play bass. I live in California in the Bay Area. And I've been into punk for a real long time. And just living the life.
Nice. Well, Mitch, whenever I was a kid, I used to read a ton of online internet blogs, and something that really stands out to me is a blog that I found that was run by two guys, one living in California and one living in St. Louis. And my friends and I became addicted and obsessed with this internet zine, which, was an online version of like 80s punk zines, And so, and come to find out, after I had Jason Hall from Western Addiction, your band, on this podcast to talk about a different propaganda song, I was looking at Western Addiction's social media and I saw your name, and I was just deluged with this memory for my entire youth and my high school years, because we became buddies with the co-author of your blog and would hang out in St. Louis together. And when I saw your name pop up on Western Addiction's page, I was absolutely blown away, because you did something whenever I was a kid that mattered so much to me. And, I wonder if you can just tell everybody about what you were up to in high school with regards to music and, some of these memories that you have from what I'm talking about with the zine that you used to run.
Sure. Yeah. So yeah, when I was like 14, I did a zine, an online zine. It was called I Don't Know. And at first I did it by myself, but then after doing it for a little while, this dude hit me up, this dude Trevor, and he was like interested in contributing. So I mean, of course, I allowed it. Like I welcomed all the help I could get. So he came on, and he was hilarious. He was a great writer, and our friend Julie helped with the other things. Julie Wager helped, and it was just kind of just an excuse to write about punk. Just and you know, we had interviews, and I did this thing called the Daily Thought, which was like kind of a journal.
Oh my God, it's all coming back to me.
Yeah, and people dug it. I mean, it had its little scene going on, and did it for a few years, and it was fun. And it, you know, the interviews were fun that we had. We got some pretty cool interviews with like Bruce Campbell was one of the big interviews we had, which was crazy considering I was like 15 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did that for a few years, and then it kind of petered out. And I was a real homebody when I started it, and then I kind of started going out more, and just kind of petered out. But it was great fun while it lasted, and it's awesome that it kind of resonated with some people. I get emails every once in a while still on my old Hotmail account. If somebody like, "Hey, are you the dude from I Don't Know?" And it's like, "Yep, what's up, man?"
Unbelievable.
So it's just cool to know that, like, when you're that young doing something, that it connected with people, and that, you know, in 2021 people even remember, because you just kind of don't expect that. So
yeah,
it's really humbling. It's really cool to know that something you did mattered to at least a few people, you know.
Yeah, and I think about like old fanzines, like from like the 80s and like early 90s, where people would like take things and like paste them together in booklets and then take them to Kinko's and photocopy it together and then hand staple it and everything, and then give those out at shows and stuff. And like I never was a part of that, like that really wasn't my scene, because, growing up in like, we were in middle school in the mid 90s, going into high school in the late 90s and early 2000s. And so like that was like our zine scene, you know what I mean? Like I followed several, but yours was like the predominant one that my friends and I in St. Louis followed. And like we were dorks for you guys, man. It was just it's like embarrassing to talk about, but it was we just loved it so much. And going to shows with Trevor in St. Louis and being like, yeah, we're with that guy, he writes this internet zine, and it was just like this massive dork out thing where we felt like really, really cool, because we felt like we were actually a part of something that was centered around this website that all of us in our little circle read every day. I mean, it was just something special to us,
Well, that's awesome. I mean, that's all you really want when you do anything, is just people to connect to something. If only you had known the like bowl haircut kid that you were looking at the website of, you might not have been that impressed.
I love it. Well, were you playing music all the way back then as well? Were like you playing when you were writing in high school, playing in bands and things like that? When does this start for you? Like playing, performing, being in bands?
Like the latter end of the website. When I was like 16 is when I started to play music. I was in this band called the Tonkas, and we actually covered Propaganda at one point.
Nice.
We played Showdown horribly in my garage once, I remember. But yeah, around like 16, I started to play music, and yeah, I never really stopped. It was
nice. I think I used to have like did you guys make a CD as well? Like a photocopied CD cover and everything?
Oh yeah. If you have that, you can chuck it in the garbage if you want.
I don't have it anymore. I don't really have any CDs laying around here anymore, but I definitely had a hard copy of that CD at one point, which I totally forgot about until you just said that existed. So another memory is jarred.
I sent it to you. I sent that to you over the mail, and that's special.
And here we are, dude, like 22 years later, still talking about music in our like mid to late 30s. And I don't know what that says about us, but I'm cool with it. So hopefully you're cool with it as well.
Hey, I'm cool with it. It's, not much has changed. Everything has changed, but not much has changed in the meantime. So
I love it. Well, what was your musical journey like after the Tonkas, after college? Like, I know you played in several pretty well-known bands at this point, but like, what was that progression like with playing with bands after high school and through college and stuff?
Me and my group of friends, our high school was kind of known for having a lot of bands at it. We were in like the wake of like Green Day blowing up, so it was just everybody wanted to be in a band at my high school. So just my group of friends, we would always play music with each other. We would go to shows at this place called the Phoenix Theater in Petaluma, which is kind of like the Gilman Street of the North Bay, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I was always in just kind of little bands here and there. And then I'd say the first band of like real note that I was in was this band Nothington, who are my best friends. Chris is my best friend, basically. I lived with all those dudes for a while. And I was in that band for a little stretch, not too long. I played on the album Borrowed Time with them, and I did some tours with them, went to Europe and stuff. And then, besides that, just Western Addiction, really.
Nice.
And I joined Western Addiction like late 2016, right before the album Tremulous came out. It's actually the 4-year anniversary of Tremulous coming out today. So
nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you know what other anniversary is today?
I saw that. Yeah. It's supporting Caste. I did not know that.
Yeah. 12-year anniversary supporting Caste.
That's my favorite Propaganda album.
It's mine too. It's my favorite album. And so
I love it.
I was thinking today, like,
Is it? Yeah. It's one of my like desert island shit. You know?
Absolutely.
Sure.
Absolutely. It's my all-time favorite record, like, period. And you know, I know it's hard to say that sometimes. Whenever you're a fan of music, like figuring out your favorite piece of music ever written and recorded is no easy task. But for me, it's pretty much hands down. And if I'm just honest with myself, I'm just going to go ahead and declare it here right now with you on the 12th anniversary of that record and the 4th anniversary of Tremulous. We're going for it.
See, that's the craziest thing. You say this is the 12th year anniversary of that?
Yeah.
It feels new to me still. Like I remember hearing, I think it was Dear Coach's Corner was like, or maybe Supporting Cat, I can't remember, but I remember hearing Dear Coach's Corner for the first time, and it feels like not that long ago. It still feels so fresh to me.
Yeah, well, and the production
so
and the production is so perfect. I mean, if it came out today, I mean, I wouldn't think twice, be like, this doesn't feel like a dated record at all. Like I was just listening to it earlier and it's still holds up entirely across the board.
Yeah, I can't believe it's been 12 years. It's crazy.
Were you on Tremulous? Did you play bass on Tremulous?
No, I did not. I joined the band like Chicken from Dead to Me, and who played on Cognicide. He kind of stepped in on bass because they made some changes. Tony was playing bass before that, but then Jason transitioned to just be a singer, and there was all kind of swapping going on. And Chicken stepped in on Tremulous to play bass, but then when it came time to play shows, they just were without a bass player. So I've been friends with Ken and Tony for a long time in the band, and I knew everybody in the band. So they asked me to join like late 2016, and then Tremulous came out on in March of 2017. So
nice.
I didn't play on it, but I got to enjoy the the shows of launching it, and I was stoked.
Yeah. Well, and you're on Frail Bray, which came out this year, and it's been a weird year. Well, it came out last year, I guess, technically, but it's been a very weird year because you haven't been able to get out there and do that promotion. But was it? Are you pretty stoked on Frail Bray still? Because I absolutely love it.
Yeah, man, I'm super proud of it. I think it came out really good. It sucks to put out an album and not be able to like play the songs for people, and like, when you create art, you kind of hope to go out there and enjoy it with the people that enjoy it with you,
Mm-hmm.
So it feels kind of sucky to like put out an album and then like not be able to, celebrate it with people that want to celebrate it with you. But at the same time, there's bigger fish frying. So,
Yeah. Well,
hopefully, so shows will hopefully become a reality soon, and then we can, it'll be all the sweeter for the wait,
Yeah, I actually just got my first vaccine appointment in 9 weeks from now, but I am officially signed up. Yeah, I'm signed up for a vaccine appointment 9 weeks from today. So woohoo, I guess, but We'll get there. But okay, so Mitch, let's kind of like, I love hearing your backstory and everything, and I'm really stoked that you're here. I had Jason on the show for the Life Disconnect episode a while back, and I love your band. So I'm really glad to, you know, keep putting Western Addiction into the ears of our audience, because it's awesome to have you know, some mutually appreciating musicians who are out there doing the same thing as them. But how do you remember the first time that you discovered Propaganda? Like, do you have like an early memory of being like, wow, I'm hearing a new band for the first time and this is awesome?
Yes, definitely. I have an older brother. He's like 5.5 years older than me. And he kind of showed me punk in general. And it's funny because like he's into like Uncle Cracker now. Like
nice.
He's grown beyond it. But I have not. Yeah, he had Survival of the Fattest on CD, and that was the first exposure I had. They had that weird picture of the guy getting like hit a drumstick up his ass or something.
Yeah.
There was something weird going on. But that was the first song I heard of them, and it was mind blowing. Like they were such a good band. Like just the musicianship of that band combined with their lyrics and their integrity that they had, it was immediate. Like they were on another level than like most bands. And it blew me away. And, you know, that was really early in my discovery of punk, and every facet of punk at that point was just mind blowing at that age. You know, I was listening to like Aerosmith before I got into punk. So, and then my brother showed me this stuff, and it's like, oh my God, this music's possible. Like it's just kind of mind blowing when you were going through puberty and you are shown this music that is so different from what you hear on the radio or on TV, on MTV at the time. It just kind of blows your mind apart. So yeah, and Nation States was the first song I heard of this band, and it kind of scared me. They were like intense.
Mm-hmm. That's how we felt.
That's why I liked it. That's why I liked it. Like all those bands, like just when you get into punk and at first when you're that age, it's kind of just like crazy. Like you can't believe that this music is happening. So yeah, that's my first memory of Propaganda for sure.
What full length did you track down first? What was your order for acquiring the records?
I mean, I don't really specifically remember, but it had to be How to Clean Everything was the first one.
Sweet.
Yeah,
do you remember how many times have you seen Propaganda live? Like how far back are we going here?
I've probably seen them like 4 or 5 times. The first time I remember vividly. It was because it was an amazing show. It was Propaganda, Avail, and Jay Church.
Oh yeah.
And Fabulous Disaster, if I remember correctly. In San Francisco. I was from Santa Rosa, so it was a little bit of a trek to see them. And I don't know, at that point, Propaganda felt like a band that was mythical almost. Like before social media, before all the shit that we're used to now, when you would hear of a band, they were so mysterious. Mm-hmm. You couldn't just like see what they're about. You just kind of you had tapes that you passed around and stuff, and it made them like mythical creatures in your mind. And just the fact that they're from Canada and stuff just felt like I would never see them in a weird way back then. And at that point, that was the tour for Today's Empires, Tomorrow's Ashes.
Nice.
And I mean, in retrospect now, it's not that long of a gap, but it felt at the time like there was a really long gap between Let's Talk, or what's it called? Let's Talk More Rock and Today's Empires.
Yeah.
It just felt like there was a long gap. So it just didn't feel like seeing them was feasible. And then when it happened, it was just miraculous. I remember so vividly. I remember like what they opened with. I remember everything. Like it was such a good show.
What was it? Mate Kata? They come out with a brand new one?
No, it was stick the flag up your fucking ass, you son of a bitch.
Nice. Awesome.
They came out the gates real strong. So
I absolutely love it. Like my friends and I used to have like this conspiracy that like Propaganda actually hated their fans because like they played so few shows. We were like, well, they must hate us all if they don't want to play any shows for us. Like they must think that we really suck. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it just felt like it was for some reason it just felt like a band I would never see, and then I did, and then I've seen them several times since.
Yeah, nice. Have you seen like different eras of the band? Like, so obviously you saw the Today's Empires with just Todd, Chris, and Jord, and then did you see like different eras, like with the Beeve and with Sue Lin as well? Like, have you seen across their entire career?
I've seen them with the Beeve. I have not seen them with Sue Lin.
I haven't either.
Really? Wow.
Nope. I haven't seen them with Sue Lin. The last time I saw them was the Failed States tour in St. Louis, in like right after Failed States came out, and B was still in the band. So it's been a bit for me as well.
Yeah, man. I used to work in the service industry, so I would always have to work on the weekend nights and stuff. And I think the past 2 times they rolled through San Francisco, I bought tickets, but then couldn't go to the show. So, yeah, I haven't seen them with Sue Lin, and it sucks. I would love to. We were supposed to play with them, but then the world went to hell. And
yeah, that was actually
my big.
Yeah, that was gonna be my
heart.
Yeah, that was gonna be my next question. I know that you and Western Addiction were supposed to play with them just this past May. Was that correct?
Dude, it was going to be our record release show.
Oh my God.
It was like it was the raddest record release show of all time. It was us, Propaganda, and Torso at my favorite venue in San Francisco, the Great American Music Hall. It was just like a magical fucking show. And you know, again, there's bigger fish frying in the world.
Yeah.
Like it's, you know, I can't act like it's a tragedy, but in my heart, it's a tragedy that show didn't happen. It was brutal.
I mean, you know, you and I like being fans of music for the last 25 years or whatever, having something like that on the books and being like looking forward to that and then having it not happen. I mean, I get it. You know, it hurts a lot.
Yeah, man. I mean, it was just such a rad proposition that show even occurring.
Mm-hmm.
That like, yeah, it was like a fantasy come true and then just like ripped away.
Ugh.
But that's life, you know. It's okay.
Yeah,
it's okay. It's
hopefully,
not okay, but it's okay.
Hopefully we're able to, move past this. And I know the Propaganda are looking forward to playing some shows again as well. Like I think they just announced at Punk Rock Bowling. So we'll see if that Punk Rock Bowling even happens. But, we're looking down the trajectory here, Mitch. We're going to be there, I feel like, pretty soon. So I'm holding tight to it. I'm hoping you guys get rescheduled with Propaganda. That'd be so great.
Oh my God, I hope so too. Yeah. The show was supposed to be like the pre-Punk Rock Bowling show. I don't remember if we were supposed to. No, we weren't playing Punk Rock Bowling, but we were like fingers crossed trying to. Yeah.
Nice.
It hurts.
Well, when I reached out to you to be on the podcast, you chose a song from the Supporting Caste LP. And as we mentioned earlier, it's the 12th anniversary of that record's release today, which is awesome. But what does this record as a whole mean to you in your life?
In my life, man, I mean, it's my favorite band, a band that I've cherished since I was very young. And I feel like it's a real distillation of all their parts just coming together just to create something very special, and just everything clicked on that album. From just the shredding of the instruments to the lyrics are just insanely good.
Mm-hmm.
Propaganda is just one of those bands that you can, the joy of listening to their record for the first time is to have the lyric sheet in front of you and to like be listening to the song while reading the lyrics and just really getting the full picture of what they're sending at you. And this album is flawless in that regard. The lyrics are just on another level, and the instrument, the musicality is on another level. Just everything is just a home run, like front to back on this record. So, and at that point, I loved Propaganda. Like they were my favorite band. They'd already put out a handful of stellar albums. And so you kind of expect bands' trajectories to kind of not just constantly be going upward. And when that album came out, it was just like, this band's still going upwards. I love them. I love everything they've done, and they haven't even peaked yet.
Yeah.
And that was the crazy part to me.
Yeah.
And it's just the perfect blend of punk and like thrash to me, and just the humor involved combined with the integrity, combined with the moral compass, just all of it is just, it's legendary to me.
Yeah. So whenever I reach out to people, like I often will just like email a list of songs, and I'll say, these are the songs that we have the episodes coming up for. This is what you have to choose from. And oftentimes what it leads to is guests not being able to choose like their favorite song to be a guest episode for. Do you have like a particular like favorite song? Like if you could have chosen from anything in the entire discography to be on an episode, which episode it would have been?
Oh boy. I mean, that's a broad list. I mean, I would want to talk about supporting cast, like any song on that one. The song supporting cast would be one. Dear Coach's Corner is another one I could riff on pretty hard.
Nice.
Humane Meat is another. I mean, all those songs are just so ripping while being so lyrically, like having such an interesting narrative and way that they are played out. I think Your Coach's Corner is one of the most interesting songs they've ever done. Mm-hmm. Just the way the lyrics are about like four things at the same time, but they all connect. It's about hockey. It's about, weird nationalism and being made uncomfortable by like the anthem being played. It's about talking to this guy who's a host who's conservative and weird. It's just, and it's about his niece that's sitting there like witnessing all this. Mm. And to me, that song is like the complete that is the song that encompasses all that they do. And it's weird because it's like kind of a slower, mellower song. I remember when I first heard it, I was like, this song's kind of mellow for them. But lyrically, I think it's one of their best songs of all time because it has this crazy angle coming. They're approaching this political topic from an angle that has this very interesting narrative to me. And I think that's, I every time that song comes on, no matter what mood I'm in, no matter where I'm at, I'm in my car, I'm in my kitchen cooking, it doesn't matter. My finger is pointing in the air and I'm singing along with it. It does not matter.
I love it. I love it. Well, and what's really funny is so we work super hard on this show to like research like little tiny references within songs. And oftentimes like what that leads to is like an open door that leads into like a dimension of like things that Keith and I can learn about, like articles to read, subjects to learn about, historical events to study. And some of these songs like scare us a lot to find because it's so deep of a rabbit hole. Like researching for Mataka Marisakun Rasakan took us like 2 months. Like we were terrified of that song, like talking about it because the history behind it is so intense. And this Dear Coach's Corner is one of those songs where we're like, oh my God, I feel like we're like nervous about that one. You know what I mean? Because we really want to do these songs justice on these episodes, but they're kind of scary to talk about sometimes because you really want to nail it. You know what I mean? And that's one of those songs that really freaks me out to talk about because I don't want to mess it up.
No, I mean, their lyrics are on another plane, like just the intelligence that goes into them. And the control of what they're talking about. Yeah. Like there's no other band that has control of the facts and what they're trying to convey as well as propaganda. So it's hard to explain. They just get it right.
Well, let's talk about the song that you did pick. Whenever I sent you the list, you picked This Is Your Life. And I'm curious if you can explain a little bit about why you picked this particular song from the list of songs that I sent you.
Right. I picked it because it's my favorite Todd song, like ever. And it's on my favorite record of theirs ever. And it's just, honestly, it kind of stands out to me because it's one of the more straightforward hardcore songs, I feel like, in their discography. It's just a pummeling, quick, like minute long, just there's no frills really. It's angry. It's closest thing to, you know, for lack of a better term, bonehead hardcore, I would say. It's their closest thing to just like smacking you over the head with just a minute of aggression song. And it's more relevant than ever, even today. And I was just always impressed by how concise it was and aggressive and just shredding. Just every time I listen to it, that's another song when I'm cooking, I stop cooking and I'm pointing at the ceiling and I'm singing along with it.
You know, I was thinking about something that is hard for Keith and I to talk about is some of the musical performances. So I play a little bit of drums here and there, but like I'm not like a competent musician like at all. I'm just essentially a fan of music who happens to beat around on a drum set every now and then. You know, but you've been playing bass for a long time. You've performed, you've recorded, you've been on records that people have heard. And I'm curious if you can talk a little bit about like what Todd as a bassist is good at for in your view. Like what do you really like about Todd as a player, you know, from a player's perspective yourself?
I would say his bass lines are like sneakily very creative and impactful. Like you won't notice it a lot of the time, but then you'll hear it do something under the surface, especially on Victory Lap. I feel like he was louder on Victory Lap than like past albums, but he's just, I'm always impressed with Todd as a human being and as an artist. You know, his painting, his bass playing, like he's just one of those dudes that just, I back everything he does. He's so good at, he's so impressive. And yeah, his bass lines, you know, if you're in Propaganda and you're playing bass with them, you are a shredder. And he is a shredder. There's just no doubting it. And it's not like outwardly as the flashiest bass playing you ever heard, because his tone isn't really flashy. Like you can't, a lot of the time it's doing what a bass should do, which is kind of backing up the sound that you're hearing. But it is, if you really take the time to listen to it, he's doing some crazy shit and kind of just playing. He adds a lot of dimension to the song that if you don't really know how bass works, or you're not really attuned to listening to bass as much, it can get lost. But if you listen to it, it's mind-blowing what he's doing. Like some things are almost like jazzy what he's doing. It's on another level. And you know, just it's kind of funny to say, but just the mere fact that he can hang in this band means he rules.
Yeah. Well, and you know, I was thinking about this as well, because not only does he hang in Propaganda, but he also hangs in Protest the Hero. He's like on the new Protest the Hero record. And they did a playthrough video with Todd playing the song with the guys in Protest the Hero, and watching him play in a very different style than what he normally does in Propaganda, and seeing him play in that playthrough video with the guys, Luke and Tim in Protest the Hero, was it transformed my understanding of what Todd's bass playing is like, because I've listened to Propaganda so many thousands of hours in my life, but seeing him in a new light playing bass in Protest the Hero, who are just such well known for their virtuosity, was really a transformative moment for me as well. So I actually came to appreciate Todd's bass playing a lot more in the last year since that new Protest record came out. And, you know, I mean, but you're right, though, as well about Victory Lap, because the solo that he brings through on Failed Imagineer is one of my favorite moments in any Propaganda song, like where he just comes through, cuts right through, and all of a sudden it's like, bam, this perfect, fantastic bass solo is right in your face. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, his bass lines kind of leave the beaten path, but they don't at the same time. It does exactly what a bass player should do, which is add dimension to a song that wouldn't be there otherwise, but it's still within the framework of the song. And all it does is add to the depth of the song. And that's, as a bass player, that's kind of what you're trying to do the whole time, is have something that doesn't distract people or like make people go, oh, why is he going so crazy? But also you're going so crazy, you know?
Yeah.
It makes sense in the context of the song, and it's like its own song underneath the surface of the song.
Yeah.
And he's a master at that.
Yeah. Well, okay, so let's talk a little bit more about This Is Your Life. The lyrics of this song are super intense, and the older that I get, the more relevant this song becomes to me personally, because to me, it's like a snapshot of a future, right? And it's a future which is scary because life on Earth is kind of precious and fleeting. I'm curious about what the lyrics of this song jump out at you and what they tell you about being human.
You know, unfortunately, I don't think it's the future. I think it's the present. I mean, to me, when I hear this song, I picture, the common like Fox News viewer, especially in COVID times where you're stuck in your house, and it's just about kind of the smaller your experience in life is, and the more you let anger kind of accumulate in your soul and blaming other people for your own problems, the more just angry you're going to be. And it's kind of a vicious cycle of just anger and smallness and pettiness. And, in America, that's a horrible problem, even more than 12 years ago when this song was made. And it's just, I feel like the point of the song is, we're taught in America, we're not taught, but there's a certain subset of people that are inflamed to kind of punch downward and get mad at people below them, like who are less fortunate than they are, because you're in this echo chamber of anger and political, just people feel like they've been left behind. So they just are pointing fingers at people, at immigrants, or, Iraq and Afghanistan, like they say in the lyrics, just creating enemies when the real enemy is the person convincing you that you have these enemies. And I feel like that's kind of the point of the song. This song is lyrically kind of one of the more straightforward propaganda songs. I feel like it's not, there's not a lot of nuance. I don't feel like.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's the point is, don't punch downward, like go out and experience life, get some life experience, meet a Muslim person, meet an immigrant, get to know them, and you'll figure out that it's not as scary as you imagine. They're not monsters. They're human beings just like you. And the real people that are creating this animosity and tension are the people telling you to not like these people. You have more in common with these people than you do with the billionaire who has, transmitted into your mind that you should not like these people.
Yeah, it's like the person who's way up there who's convincing you that the people below you are trying to come and take what you have.
Yeah,
is it's one of the greatest cons that's ever been pulled in the history of this country.
And it happens daily in America. It's a continual narrative in America, and not just America, in the world, but in particularly in America, I feel like. And yeah, it's sad, and I feel like the song, it kind of nails that point. Again, like I said, it's not the most nuanced way of saying it, but that's kind of what I like about it though too. It's just a straight up hardcore song saying like, this is your life. Like like if you just would get beyond the confines of your life and see people for not as enemies, but as equals, you could move past this anger of yours and see where the anger should really be directed.
A nice little subtext of what you're saying is like the idea of going out into the world. And I'm actually seeing this line in the song in a new light right now. It says, go out into the world, you'll see you'll probably survive.
Yeah.
And it goes out on such a hopeful note. Like, even if you
Exactly.
are stuck in this world of mental anguish, worrying about other people who you have been taught to hate, if you go out and you actually test it, you may be able to change your mind. Like, so even though Todd is, very critical of this person who has fallen into this trap, they
It
still
ends
are
on an
not.
empathetic note. It still is, there's empathy at the end.
Bingo. It's just so,
Yeah.
it's just such a beautiful little spin at the end. Like, you're not beyond growth. You're not beyond changing your mind about this. You can grow. You can build these relationships with people in the world that you are being told to hate. It's actually really fantastic if you look at it like that.
Oh yeah. I mean, it brings the whole song together, because the song could come across as kind of mean-spirited up to that point.
Mm-hmm.
But the ending of the song brings it like, just, if you go out and you experience life, get some life experience under your belt, like, you'll see that there's not monsters and boogeymen out there. It's other human beings that you have more in common with than you think.
I love it.
That's the whole point of the song, I feel like. And it's just such a blast of aggression and just hardcore. Like, it's just one of the more hard, like, quote unquote hardcore songs Propaganda has, I feel like, is this song. And yeah, I think it does a good, concise job of getting that point across, for sure.
Well, let's have a nice little close to our conversation here. So Propaganda, they're 7 records deep now in their career. They've been around for, if you go back to 86, they've been around for, over 30 years at this point, which is really wild.
They started in 86?
Apparently,
wow.
Jordan and Chris say that it starts at 86, but I think their first show was more like, a couple years after that.
Right.
But, this band has this super long career with albums that, you and I both love immensely. What do they mean to you, like, big picture over the course of your entire life? Not just, the early days of finding them when you were a kid, not just supporting Caste, but all of it. What does it all mean to you?
It means to me, like, they, in general, they are the band that is kind of like the moral compass of punk rock. There's no band in my mind. They are the most punk rock band that's ever existed, because I don't believe in I don't like the nihilistic side of punk. I don't like the self-destructive side of punk. I like the hopeful side of punk rock, and the belief that things can be better if you just make them better. And to me, they signify the purest example of a band that aims towards that ideal. It's not self-destructive. It is, if you change yourself, if you are a conscious person, if you are a good citizen, like, you can improve the world and things can steadily get better. And I feel like that's just kind of the constant undercurrent of what they're saying. They're like the North Star of my moral compass, basically. Like, they, from animal rights, they've been a huge influence on my thinking in terms of that. In terms of just like the casual cruelty of the world, they are they just make you think about this stuff more than any other band on a deeper level. There's a lot of political punk bands that, deal in kind of talking points and slogans and stuff. But this band has never been that. It's always been deep. It's always been thorough. They've always had a handle on what they're talking about, to the point of just being so impressive. And so for me, like, they're just such a huge figure in punk rock, because I feel like they are the punkest band maybe ever, in my mind.
I'm not going to disagree.
Yeah, because I mean, I don't like Sid Vicious. I don't like that punk. I like the punk that believes in the future and thinks things can be better, and will call people on their shit, and welcomes people calling on them on their own shit. You know what I mean? And they say that in the song, and just the it's a way that they can articulate complicated things in simple ways with an interesting narrative is just something that no one else does, as far as I'm concerned. And just the musicality behind it too, just the fact that they're just such shredders. It's really just a band that all the elements come together to form something no one else can do.
Well, Mitch, I'm super grateful to you for coming on the show to chat with me. As I said earlier, I geeked out big time realizing that you were the creator and writer of my favorite 90s internet punk zine, dude. I mean, it's seriously a pleasure being able to.
It's my pleasure. It's a trip. It's awesome.
Yeah, it really is. Well, anyway, I'm super grateful to you for hanging out with me, chatting propaganda.
Absolutely.
It's just been such a thrill to hang out with you tonight.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's been fun.
All right, everybody. So welcome back. That was my chat with Western Addiction bassist Mitch Paglia. And I threw another vocal cover of This Is Your Life by our listener, Josh Robbins. So thank you to Josh and thank you to Mitch. And Josh emailed me that fantastic vocal cover, and he said this was way fun and challenging to do. I'm pretty happy with it. I had to make my family leave and didn't have much time, plus my voice was going out. So this will do. Hope you like it. Thanks for finding this demo. Super rad that I can pretend I'm in the band for a second. And that just absolutely cracks me up, because if you think about being like a guy in like your 30s or 40s, standing in a room in your house, like surrounded by kids' toys and screaming this song into a microphone, like singing vocals into a microphone is hilarious anyway, because there's no music playing. It's literally just a person screaming in a silent room. So like the thought of like doing that with your children, like in the house upstairs, and all they hear is like dad or mom or whatever yelling in the other room.
Right.
It's ridiculous. So I'm just picturing Josh yelling in a silent room in his house, and it's absolutely cracking me up. So, Keith, should we go ahead and go into the music for this tune?
Yeah, Greg. And I'm going to start with maybe a painfully obvious statement, but I think only now I'm realizing how metal this song is.
Yes.
And perhaps I say that because I think for a long time, I lumped Todd's more like heavier, harder songs more into like a hardcore category, kind of more like, Fuck the Border or Ordinary People. I put those kind of all together in that it was more of a like a hardcore punk. But listening to this, it is way more, Voivod than Cro-Mags. It has such a simple opening intro riff that has that like low and high
right,
a feel that we've talked about quite a bit, that the band does in different variations on supporting cast, but it's also just then it gets like thrashy and maybe staccato at times with really unique strumming patterns. And how it starts and stops on a dime. So I don't know. I think of all of the Todd just all out ragers.
Mm-hmm.
This one seems to be just the most effective. There's nothing incredibly flashy. It mirrors the lyrics in a way that we've also talked about in terms of like ideas being bridged like musically and lyrically. Like so, we'll talk about the lyrics obviously, but it doesn't have any double entendres or incredibly descriptive language. It's kind of more ordinary words to describe a very ordinary scene. And the music reflects that in a way that is just super, super effective. And
Yeah.
I think of like all of those, if their goal is a rager, right? We even like it feels like so many people use that term to describe the song. This by far is like the most successful version. If that's the goal that they're that the band is striving for.
I really like how you said that the imagery is ordinary, but I don't sense that you're using that as like a, to detract from the power of the imagery, because like what you mean by ordinary, I feel like, is that anybody in the world can go to a certain family member's house and see this scene for themselves.
Yeah.
In the moment. You know what I mean? It's like maybe it's not Iran, maybe it's not Afghanistan, but it's like you will find somebody yelling about a scene. So when you say ordinary, I feel like you mean this is something that is a problem the world over, especially in our country particularly. But obviously Canada's not immune as well, as Todd's singing about a scene that takes place in Canada. But this is something that we can all see for ourselves. But going back to the music for a second.
Yeah.
This song, as you mentioned, a rager, and I love the subtle shifts. Like it has that super straightforward drum beat opening up, and then it rolls into a tempo change, like where it goes onto the backbeat a little bit, like you're going crazy in your basement hole, and then it goes like it's got that galloping feel to the riff. And it feels like a precursor to the riff of Dark Matters, like and so to me, these songs almost would flow together sound wise. Do you know what I mean? It's not just it's not to me a random occurrence that This Is Your Life and Dark Matters feel musically connected as well. But the riff in this song, You Just Sit There Bleeding For Yourself.
Yeah.
It's so fast. And there's a video that I absolutely love of Propaganda on a New York City boat show that is zoomed in on Sue Lin.
Oh, it's so good.
It's so great. And you can get a sense of how this song is actually a Propaganda song that like relatively new guitar players can learn how to play. It's really, really fast, but it's not, it doesn't have insane chords that are like, super stretchy, or like that require lots of pinky dexterity and things like that. But you could slow this thing down, and I feel like this is a song that guitar players who want to learn how to play Propaganda songs but aren't super great could learn how to play. The chords aren't nuts, it's just super fast. This is like a way to utilize songs where I feel like you can get the chords down, and then you can work on your own speed and your own picking techniques, because it's got some super awesome palm muting, but it's got chords that aren't inaccessible to relatively novice guitar players. But I hear you, man, on the affinity for thrash coming through on this one. It's so cool. But like the drums on the bridge breakdown during the super heavy fast palm muting part, where Jord is doing those double hits on that hi-hat, is so awesome. I absolutely love that fast hi-hat. And Jord actually discusses that hi-hat selection a lot on the Patreon episode, which was really cool to me. But it's the hi-hat that I'm talking about, where he's going under the part where the palm muting guitar is going, and then Todd goes, ha!
Yeah.
And to me, that fast hi-hat hit on that bridge is like the rug that holds the room together. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And Greg, I'm going to jump back really quickly just to something else about the guitars in that that riff underneath, you think you tell it like it is, that part,
Yeah.
the really fast part. It's so fast, it almost sounds like, and I know so many like musicians listen to the show, so please feel free to shoot us a message or explain if you have a better, like if there's a term for this. It almost sounds like those chords are like it's a slide. Like it's sliding from one position to another. Like if you obviously held your finger down on the 5th fret, and then hit that note and then didn't strum again, but you slid that up to the 7th fret. It has that like just connecting, bridging sound. But those power chords, that whole part feels like and sounds like they are just sliding together in a way that to me, again, it just straight up sounds like thrash, not like not like Fuck the Border, or not like some other more abrasive stuff that the band did with Todd on Today's Empires.
Yeah, I'm wondering if there's a lot of the sound coming through on the guitar is like those chords, like just really hammering down really hard on those to make that sound come through. I'm wondering, like, you can see Sulin's picking.
It's nuts.
And the right hand playing on that video, and it's just so fantastic. All of that. So anyway, Tim Browne, when he emailed me after doing his vocal cover, he told me the only thing he wrote was "my throat hurts." And Josh wrote how challenging it was to do. Like, the visceralness of this vocal performance is really fantastic as well. And hearing other people do this particular song is pretty cool. And then hearing stories about how hard this kind of stuff actually is, and then thinking about doing this kind of stuff on tour for weeks and weeks on end. I'm just so impressed with bands like Propaganda who utilize a 2 vocal approach, because I feel like that's such a powerful touring strategy as well, where you can kind of break down the vocal duties and you can get each other a break. Because you think about these songs, the musical performance alone, there's very little breathing room in Propaganda songs. Like Sulin's talked about this before, Tertium non datur, there's no rest. So the music alone, with even no singing, Propaganda's already got their work cut out for them, even if they were an instrumental band. And then you have these songs which are, hard to sing, man. I'm just really impressed with these, with Chris and Todd, the way they're able to break these down,
Yeah, not only is it a stylistic variation, it allows for there to be different sounds and different voices and different qualities within the music, like say Negretto versus the song supporting Caste. But yeah, I think that's a smart connection and a smart observation, and that it's just an energy and voice and stamina saving choice as well.
So speaking of stylistic changes, so the vocal covers that we've put in the episode so far have been true to the original form that Todd performs on the record, just straightforward. Tim and Josh are like just giving her. And we got a different kind of vocal cover submission. And this one comes from our buddy Lang Huck in St. Louis, Missouri. And Lang emailed me and he was like, I kind of feel like I'm turning it into a Greg Graffin style crooner. And Lang was playing with the tempo of the song. He was slowing it down and kind of like developing a vocal melody. And I think that he took it back up to full speed for the cover, but he was messing with the speed of the song in his audio program. And he kind of turned it into, he gave it a melody, like he gave it a croony melody. So we got a vocal cover now from Lang Huck, and he did a little bit of a different style here. So let's go ahead and hear this one from Lang.
You're not really mad at Iran or Afghanistan. You're really just mad that your wife can't stand you anymore. You don't know where she is. You're going crazy in your basement hall, thinking you're remote control, spitting insults at the screen. 'Cause tomorrow you're back at work, where you can't stand being the little man. Just Despite your groveling, you can't get ahead. No one really laughs at your stories anymore. Just look all and mean, so they fuck on board. Your kids are at the mall, they just sit and stare at the walls. You think you tell like it is. You say you can't stand bleeding hearts, but every single day you just sit there bleeding for yourself. You whine and cry in your manly voice. This is your life. Yeah, hey. You just hear yourself, take a load off your mind. Go out to the world, see, you'll probably survive. This is your life.
All right, so that was our vocal cover submission from Lang Huck. What's up, Lang buddy? It's so great that you got involved on this one. I'm really excited, man. So Keith, do you want to go into some lyrics here?
Yeah, Greg. And I want to start by flashing back to our Negretto episode, at least just briefly, when I shared some personal connections to that song, specifically the unexpected death of my stepfather. And I don't want to retrace too many of the steps and details that we covered on that episode, but I just want to remind our listeners that during that conversation, you asked me if my stepdad who passed away, Johnny, also mirrored the father figure in This Is Your Life. And that part had never really sunk in with me until you asked. So I kind of had a little bit of an on mic revelation in that in some ways it did. And it took the wind out of me a little bit because like the Negretto connection ran deep. And although his story isn't exactly the same as what Todd talks about on Chris's Patreon, which I don't want to give too much, really any information on that. I'll let Todd's words stand alone. Plus, I just don't think I could, add to something that's so personal. So mostly what I'll talk about is just, my own observations or my own personal connections. But it still has enough parallels to make me feel an unfortunate, sad connection to these tracks. And, before that, though, I want to say that despite a, troubled relationship with my stepdad, who was a complicated person who represented neither the best nor the worst of my family, I will say that I'm lucky that my dad is an incredible, loving, supporting person who's more Clark W. Griswold than Archie Bunker or Al Bundy.
My dad looks like Clark Griswold. Not even joking.
Yeah. I mean, my dad is, he's one of the most supportive, kindest people I know. And I think I've gotten into, one or two arguments ever with him. And the older I've gotten, we've just connected so much more, especially now that I'm a father. And I've mentioned before too that he moved recently to Georgia within the last few years. But despite that distance, which is hard at a time that's already isolating, he and I have just our conversations on the phone have just taken a different route that I hadn't really anticipated. So I do feel fortunate that the most important and the closest father figure in my life, I'm lucky that I don't have these harsher or more negative connections to like sung about in the song.
Yeah, it's really tough. And I'm actually going through sort of a reconnecting with my own dad right now. I'm actually recording this in St. Louis. I'm at my parents' house on my first visit with them in a long time. And it feels so good to be able to reconnect with him in that way because, my dad and I, when you grow up, the child parent dynamic is often one of do this, do that. We're going here, we're going there.
Yeah.
And there's less of an interpersonal emotional bond in a lot of ways. Like if you don't grow up in a household where people are openly saying, I love you, and this is why I love you, and really connecting deeply. I didn't really particularly have a life like that growing up. But now that my parents and I have had a period of being living super far away from each other, not talking for long extended periods of time, and then going through this realization for myself that I kind of want that, and saying that to them and them being receptive to it.
Yeah.
Like, this reconnecting with my parents could have gone either way. It could have been like, well, you've been gone for a long time and whatever.
Sure.
But like, they are like receptive to it. They're open-hearted, and
That's great.
they're interested in having these relationships with me that go beyond just the surface level. Hey, how was your drive? How's the weather up there?
You're right. How's the car running?
Exactly. Like, we're going beyond that. And some of the conversations that my parents and I have had within the past couple of months have been among the most deeply emotionally honest conversations that we've had in my entire life. And so I'm looking at this song and I'm seeing a child and a parent going in different directions, and them losing hope that they'll ever be able to connect on that emotional level with that parent again. And they're mourning in advance of this person's death, because in a way, when you lose somebody into like a rage spiral or whatever, they die in a way to you. Does that make sense? Like, they become a person that you can no longer connect with, because if they're not putting out that energy back to you, then you lose that, and there is a grieving process that goes with that. So instead of somebody being interested in emotionally connecting, they become a television yeller. It's really, really a different situation. So I'm feeling fortunate that I don't have what is going on in this song. You know what I mean?
Right. Same. Yeah.
So let's get into these lyrics here. So the opening line is, you're not really mad at Iran or Afghanistan. You're mad at the fact that your wife can't stand you anymore. You don't know where she is. So to me, this just speaks to the heart of human pain, which has only gotten worse since this song was released in 2009. I was reading an article recently from the Washington Post in the summer of 2020 called "Americans Are Living in a Big Anger Incubator." So you think about the power of, very, very, very partisan, very manipulative media sources that masquerade as actual news. And if you compare the 2009 version of that to the 2016, 17, 18, 19, 20, 2021 versions, it only gets exponentially worse with each passing year.
Yeah.
And so people who can't see like the hyper politicized nature of our society compared to the political apathy of like the 1990s, like, are living in denial. Like, we are literally everything now comes down to so-called politics. And, each year for the past 2 decades, like, we've gotten more and more angry because it's fed to us in a way that preys upon our emotional reactiveness and our weaknesses for addiction. Until, people who were once normal and healthy people descend into like a hell that is yelling at a television. Finding yourself in an anger spiral is such a surreal experience, no matter where you find yourself on the political spectrum. And to me, this song isn't partisan against a specific political group necessarily, because I don't know about you, but I am prone to long media binges where I get more and more and more angry all along the way before I find myself like being like, I can't read any more news. I'm like, and then I get super mad. And it's something that I've struggled with for several years. But I feel like anybody is prone to this. And when you live in an ongoing environment where you are just being more and more angered by what you're experiencing, it's being fed to you in a very carefully crafted and manipulated manner, that shortens lifespans, regardless of your political viewpoint. Like, living with so much anger that you're doing to yourself is not healthy for anybody. So I'm seeing this person who's just spiraling out of control. And to me, it's just tragic the way that we see ourselves as being informed, but how really what it's doing is it's oftentimes contributing to our own lack of mental wellness. Does that make sense?
Yeah, Greg, I think that's a great point, that it's really easy to just write this off as a song about the Fox News parent.
It's really easy to do that, of course.
But not to see ourselves in it, and how, like you said, if it's just scrolling through Twitter, or if it's just reading too much. And I think there's a lyric later in the song that I want to come back to related to that, that kind of shows that it's not just about, those people who disagree with us. But with this first part, the lyrics that you read, Greg, I guess my first connection is that it makes me think of the marginalized people who struggled not only because of their whatever they're marginalized for, if a class, gender identity, ethnicity, religion, sexual identity, the difficulties of being part of a group outside of what is prejudicially, narrow-mindedly considered to be the norm, the standard. So people who are kept down not just by institutions and systemic oppression, but by individuals who see them as threats to their own identity or to their own security. And so with that, I think of how much of our lashing out at others, like this first song, the first part of the song says, is a result of our own discontent, in which we find scapegoats to put the blame on someone else. It's this group of immigrants who are threatening the economy, or are threatening jobs, or it is a teenager who doesn't feel comfortable in their own body. Somehow that person is undermining tradition and what some concrete and very narrow depiction of what a family is. So I think here it really shows how we project our own failures, frustrations, and fears onto groups who are already beaten down by the governments and by society as a whole.
Yeah. But if you say that to a person who is doing that, it's, oh, how dare you accuse me of that? I'm not a racist, or I'm not, I'm not transphobic. But, so many times when we have our own fears and insecurities, it can't be our own fault. It can't be the people's fault who create systems that we've all inherited. It has to be these other vulnerable people who literally may not have food for that particular day. Oh, it's definitely them. And it's tragic, because when you call out those situations, it's so hard to convince the person who said those scapegoating comments to actually see what you mean, because then they see what you're saying as an affront to their views of the world, and they're like, I'm definitely not like that. So it's a really tricky situation, because then it becomes something that you can't argue somebody out of it, because they were never argued into it. They were not reasoned into it. So there's no reasoning somebody out of something that they weren't reasoned into.
Yeah, Greg, I'll say that in my classroom, how I address statements that are sexist and racist or homophobic, typically a response is, I'm not sexist, or I'm not racist. And I tell my students, I don't really care about how you define yourself in that way. Like, if you see yourself as being racist or not, it doesn't matter what you label yourself. It's the things that you say and do that determine whether or not you have racist ideas, or if you've done something that threatens or belittles someone because of some trait or something about their life. So that's something that I share with my students, but also to keep in mind for myself, that it doesn't really matter if a person can say, like, it's funny how often, like, people who aren't racist say and do the most racist things or the most sexist things, because they can think, well, I don't think I'm better than other people. Therefore, they're not racist, and not realizing that the things they're saying and doing are ultimately determining whether or not they are.
Yeah. And one of the things I try to never do is I try never to say that I'm not racist, because we're all prone to these things, and we've all been conditioned throughout our lives in certain ways
Right.
to be reactive to certain moments. And I'm still unpacking all those things for myself. Like whenever I grew up in St. Louis, in the St. Louis suburbs, I would turn on the news every night and there would be like a murder in the city of St. Louis or an arson in the city of St. Louis. So like I was growing up living in this like all white suburb called Fenton, and I'd be turning on this news and I would see these like crimes being reported on the news. But instead of like seeing beautiful things in the city of St. Louis on the news, I was seeing only ugly things on the news. So that filtered into my brain of the city of St. Louis as being this over there where the crime happens.
Yeah.
And so we would go to Blues games or Cardinals games in the city, and I'm like, walking as close to my parents as I possibly could, because I feel like at any moment, those things that are reported on the news are going to be happening to me. And I can't tell you how it feels so strange to be a person who is committed to the wellness of humanity and realizing all the ways that I had like many, many, many years of head start on having these negative views given to me over long periods of time where I had no ability to comprehend what was happening. And that's how I wound up, and so I'm still digesting and dissecting all those things to this day. And it happens to all of us.
Yeah.
And you're not to blame. It's not your fault, but for having those things happen to you throughout your life. But how you move forward and how you honestly address and unpack the things that were put into your brain for years and years, that's where the real action happens. That's where the real growth happens. So anyway, I'm trying to have the reverse of this song happen to me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to not go in the direction of this song. I'm trying to go in the reverse of this song, because I feel like my starting point was this song. You know what I mean? Like as a kid, I was this song, and then I'm trying to go out of it as I get older. So anyway, we have this next line here. You're going crazy in your basement hole, clicking your remote control, spitting insults at the screen because tomorrow you're back at work where you can't stand. I can't even I have to like break into song. Where you can't stand being a little man despite your groveling, you can't get ahead. And to me, these lines aren't even about making fun of people with whom we disagree politically. Like, it's not about that for me. This song to me is about tragedy of how human beings experience disappointment and the feeling of being overlooked in life when we realize our insignificance. And, there are certain ways that you can look at this. Like, first, granted, you don't come from like an oppressed or marginalized population of people who actually lives in fear, assuming you're safe. You can be like accepting of being somewhat insignificant, and you can be like a Taoist about it, basically, where like we realize I reside in this lowly place on the planet. I have my little niche of harmony with the world. I'm going to do my best, and I'm going to seek harmony with my surroundings, even though I have this lowly status that I may never really emerge from. And that's okay. So you can accept it, right? You can accept that you're never going to get ahead at work. You can accept that you're never going to be rich. You can just carve out your little niche of harmony based on your station in life and move forward like that. And second, you can also fall into a pattern of bitterness and resentment as the world passes you by, which is being depicted in this song. And third, you can claw your way, which oftentimes requires sacrificing one's own values and integrity to climb on the heads of everybody else to get ahead. And so it's like you can be super ruthless in that way. So I'm seeing this line as being like there's a few different paths you can take to accept where you are, to get angry about where you are, or to claw at the expense of other people out and climb on heads. Does that make sense?
Yeah, Greg. And I think what you said is that how it's not making fun of people. Like there's definitely empathy
Absolutely.
here, even though it's still kind of harshly worded.
Yeah.
You can tell that. While reading simultaneously as an indictment of a generation of men, it's also an indictment of the system in which those people work and live, like the what was created that they were born into. So not all, but most of the men that I've known who had some influence on my upbringing, this kind of mirrors that. A life defined by a false promise of better, resentment of work, discontent with the daily grind and routine.
Yep.
And it ends up just rotting people's minds and hearts. And, it in some cases it's demeaning work, or it's unfulfilling work. Where I live, that oftentimes is in the form of steel companies and oil refineries in a heavily industrial area on Lake Michigan, billion-dollar companies, where when wages drop or hours are cut back or unions are disenfranchised, benefits are slashed, it's easy to blame some outsider and interloper immigrants rather than like the corporations that are hoping to maximize profits. And the line that you just read, Greg, I think this is one of the saddest to me, because I've seen that stress from work, people angry at home, and the resentment then that seeps into everyday life. And I think sometimes, like a lot of times too, that individuals will try to mask their resentment for their work and how they've been overlooked and they've been passed up and they've had to continue to do more for less, because admitting that frustration seems to also admit some sort of failure. So there's like this pretending to be happy with the work that people do, despite the fact that it's clearly not fulfilling in terms of like just spiritually what they hope to get out of life, or fulfilling in being able to provide for themselves and others. And this part also, with like this may be somewhat meta, but spitting insults at the screen, and like someone sitting in a man cave or in the basement or wherever. For us, we like, I don't know, in the 90s, it was just the living room where for me, like the father figures always kind of dominated. But I also think about the representation of dads on TV as well. And just think about the shifting and evolving portrayal of fathers from, say, the 60s forward. Like it went from like this omniscient patriarch who worked 9 hours a day and was also still able to come home and fix all of the family's problems.
Yeah.
And that later gave way to like a splintered and fractured father figure, like bumbling characters who were maybe well-meaning, but also inept. And think of this shift, Greg, from fathers who know best to being the butt of almost every joke. Like Homer Simpson. From
Peter Griffin.
Andy Griffith to Homer Simpson, but now to like like Phil from Modern Family, where it's almost like this dialing back with this sensitive character who's still like awkward and uncomfortable. These all seem like culture is never just culture, right? These seem to be statements about fathers that kind of shape how we even see our own. Like There's a reason why I think of my dad as kind of the Clark Griswold, because while well-meaning, he often like overdid everything. He would try to overdo things, and sometimes it would lead to a little bit more stress, right? It would create a little bit more like tension because things had to be sometimes so over the top. But that was all kind of done out of love. So I'm fortunate to have, Clark Griswold at home and not Al Bundy. But I don't know. It makes me think about how fathers will be depicted in mainstream media, 20 years from now, or, how this generation of say teenagers, when they're my age, what will their cultural idea of fathers be, how that will continue to change, how much that is like life depicting art and vice versa, but also now like my own place within that, being a father. I mean, this has just left me thinking about this song and other things in ways that I hadn't before, because I just didn't have that personal connection.
Well, I know that you and I are both prone to periods of depression, and the thing that's super hard about that is that now you have a baby and my kiddo is 7, and so even though we're aware of these things, because you and I are prone to these periods of emotional challenge ourselves, what happens is we know deeply when we're failing. Does that make sense? So like there are times when I just like cannot peel myself away from watching Kim's Convenience or Letterkenny for like 5 hours because I'm just like not able to. Like I'm like, and I'm sitting there in my head and I'm berating myself that I'm not doing like a puzzle or playing Clue with my kid, and I'm just like sitting there staring at this television screen, and I'm watching myself do it. I'm watching myself fall into this pattern of behavior, which is neglectful. And then also at the same time, I'm beating myself up mentally that I'm not changing it, that I'm not just peeling myself up off the couch. So then I start mentally spiraling. And then I don't get up because I'm angry and disappointed at myself. So instead of being able to be proactive about it, I just sink further. So I get it, man. When I think about this particular song and Negretto or Sinking Under Forever, like I've experienced little micro bursts of that within myself that are like previews for me when I am potentially old and doing even worse at it. So when I look at this song, I don't see like just a right-wing person ranting about liberals. I see me, and I really am considerate of that. And we have this song here. You mentioned teenagers a few minutes ago. And then we have this next line: no one really laughs at your stories anymore. You're too cynical and mean, and they fucked off board. Your kids are at the mall. They just sit and stare at the walls. And Todd talks about this in the Patreon about how the kids are like sort of like a universal any kid instead of just him and his brother. But man, I get this line big time. Like if a parent is consumed with negativity and they are doing things around the house that aren't fun and they're dragging those kids into that, the automatic response for that kid as that kid gets older is going to be to turn away in search of happiness and positivity. So some things that pushed me away when I was a kid, if I would wake up at like 6 a.m. and on a Saturday morning and I would hear the vacuum running upstairs, my first instinct was that I was going to be chopping wood, cutting grass, staining the fence, and that was going to be my entire day. So if I woke up and I heard like rage vacuuming or slamming cabinets in the kitchen from my basement bedroom, my first instinct was going to be get dressed, go out the sliding glass door in the back of the house, and don't come back for 12 hours. Like, because like I would lay in bed hearing these chores happening elsewhere in the house, and I just knew that was going to be my entire day. If I stuck around there, I would just get sucked into this negative cycle that would last my entire Saturday. And when you're a kid and you're sitting in a classroom plastic chair all day, every day, like that is precious time. And the thought of like being like, well, we're chopping wood today, or well, we're staying in the fence today. You can't deal with that over and over and over for years, because to me, that's not really parenting. That's just like indentured servitude in a lot of ways.
Mm.
And, that's to me, what's going on here. The cynicism, the meanness, it causes kids and other people just to want to run as far away as they possibly can.
Yeah, Greg. Once I was able to drive, I got my license. I remember just bailing.
Mm-hmm.
My parents are divorced, and if I was at my mom's house and things got heated or uncomfortable, and I drove there and stayed for the weekend, I reached a point eventually to where I would have someone come pick me up to leave, and I wasn't embarrassed about that, or I didn't feel guilty about it anymore. I would just like, all right, I'm not going to be here if this is what's going to happen. Or later on, I would just grab my bag and dip out and drive home. So that avoidance, I totally get too. And with that, my stepdad, he didn't take his anger out on any particular like political issue or group of people. He was more likely to direct his own discontent and project his own like personal failure just on his family. But in a way that was masked as like, oh, I'm just being funny and you can't take a joke. So if it was like crude jokes and offensive comments constantly made around every family member, my mom, my older brother, my younger brother, my grandma, and he had the same sense of humor throughout his entire life. He made the same racist jokes when I was like 10 as he did when I was 30. And when I was a kid, I didn't even realize it was a joke.
Yeah.
Like I remember him telling me one specific joke, and I didn't get it was a punchline. I thought it was like a factual statement.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember telling that joke to a neighbor, that neighbor being the ethnicity the joke was directed toward.
Oh, God.
And I'm like, oh, hey, I just learned this. So I was 7 or 8, and I told this joke to a neighbor, not realizing that it was racist, that it wasn't a joke. And I remember him just staring at me. And I said, oh, well, this is what my stepdad told me. And again, thinking of the impact of, the things that you say to others and not knowing where that will go, not knowing if they'll understand it, not knowing if they'll repeat it. And Greg, the older I got, the more I realized with that, like my family's default mode just tends to be aggressive, like constant sarcasm, which I'm fine joking around and I enjoy that just as much as everyone else. But what happens is if there's this gathering of people, typically, the group will find the weakest person or some target at a holiday gathering and just gang up on them, and they make jokes, and they kind of dogpile on them. And once I came to that realization that that's how things work and that I was participating in it as well, it really made me reevaluate how I talk to my family, especially when other family is around. And I want to tag on to that then the last lyrics, Greg.
Mm-hmm.
They just sit and stare at the wall. You think you tell it like it is. You say you can't stand bleeding hearts, but every single day you just sit there bleeding for yourself. And this part brings up some hard stuff for me, honestly, because when I was little, my dad would talk about what he called the Goth gene. And if our listeners don't remember, that's my last name, Goff. How men in my family were angry, aggressive, and abusive. And my dad used to always tell me he was glad that like the Goth gene skipped me. Like it seemed to skip him, and it skipped me. And of course, like neither of us believe that there's like literally a gene.
Sure.
But there's a generational trend of in my family of men who are abusive and manipulative. And now that I'm a father, though much of my time right now is far more just keeping my head above the water,
Yeah.
changing diapers and coaxing my son back to sleep, or trying to find quiet moments to talk to my wife about anything and everything other than like how we both feel like we're barely surviving the first couple months of parenthood.
Oh, yeah.
But it makes me reevaluate, like, what am I going to model
Yeah.
in terms of emotional maturity and empathy and kindness, and also realizing when, like, that I'll always be modeling that, even if I don't feel like I'm specifically doing something to teach a lesson or to show something, just like in my classroom, that how I welcome the students, how I say goodbye to them, how I transition in class to another activity, how I respond to a student's comment, or like if a student needs a redirection, like all of that is modeling like everything that I do, like how they see adults interacting with teenagers. So everything is modeling, like if it's in the hallway or what else. So how will I limit my own temper and frustrations? Because people are like, wait, you get you have a bad temper, or you get upset. And it's like, well, I think most people do. And everyone has failings, or they let emotions get the best of themselves. But how can I limit that as much as possible? What will I maybe take my anger out on in front of my son? And I have this dread of kind of what you said, being some updated version of the song.
Yeah.
Maybe not screaming at Fox News, but social media, or scrolling through a news feed, or seeing a bumper sticker on the back of a Dodge Ram pickup truck that sends me off, or a flag in front of a home that gets me upset because of what it stands for and what it represents, and how I'll allow that negativity to consume me, and then, like, again, modeling things in front of my own family.
Yeah, and there's another really important thing I hear about this line. It's you think you tell it like it is,
Yeah.
right? I think
Yeah.
that's such an essential lyric in this song. To me, when a person says I tell it like it is, they're often commenting on something that is in fact not that way at all.
Yeah.
It's said as a caveat to something that someone need not say, but which they say because they know it will be a hurtful thing, and they see themselves as some kind of martyr for truth or something
Yeah.
else as nonsensical. Like, it's a way to gird a listener to hear something likely offensive, and is a way to shield themselves from criticism because they see themselves as like a beacon of truth in a too sensitive culture.
Yeah. Yeah.
The
Yeah.
thing that's so irritating about I just tell it like it is, folks, is they are often immune to competing evidence. They're immune to contradictions to their claims, and telling it like it is like a built-in defense mechanism against having to have their narrow version of what they see as reality come into question by other
Mm.
people who are possibly significantly more informed.
Right.
They'll go blah, blah, blah. They'll get presented with competing evidence, and then they will always have a perfect comeback against challenges to their view. And the only real goal in the back and forth is to exhaust the other person who tries to reason the tell it like it is person out of a view that they weren't reasoned into. And it's just manipulation. So the tell it like it is line to me is so important, because oftentimes those folks are completely unpersuadable. Like, you cannot win them back. Like, they are, this is how it is. And if you say, well, here are some ideas that maybe you can consider. Oh, no, I'm not like that. And you know what I mean? So it's not a real invitation to a conversation at all. So for me, when people have said, I just tell it like it is, that's not a conversation invitation. It's, here is my view. It is meant to be provocative. It's meant to be offensive. Many people will find this offensive. But this is not an invitation to actually have a conversation about it. It's bam, in your face. So that's kind of my thoughts on the Tell It Like It Is, folks.
Yeah, Greg, those are great comments. And so much of that resonates with, unfortunately, far too many people in my own life that I can think of as those individuals who profess to be, open to dialogue, conversation, and debate. Like, oh, you can't debate anything anymore. And then when you start to actually have conversations about it, things are clearly not, a conversation. They're not a debate. They're not a discussion of ideas. It's really just, exactly a manipulation, just like you said.
Yeah. Well, and then we have these closing lines. This is your life. You do it to yourself. Take the load off your mind. Go out into the world. You'll see you'll probably survive. This is your life. So you alluded to this line earlier in our conversation.
Yeah.
And I love this line. When I see people making snap judgments about populations of people while seeing things filtered through their television without taking into consideration the total package of challenges facing other people, like the lives of refugees or the lives of transgender people or communities of color whose neighborhoods have often been scapegoated and stereotyped, like I talked about earlier watching the news as a kid, all while getting these life stories filtered through a particular lens from a particular news channel, you have this ingrained fear of people that you've never even met. So it's like, oh, if I go out, this is going to happen to me. And Todd's saying, no, go out and actually meet people. You'll see that people are fantastic and they're not going to kill you. You're not in danger. These are just people who would probably be very happy to meet you and actually tell you about their lives if you are open to hearing their stories and asking questions from a good place and a positive heart and a positive attitude. Like that's to me what he's asking us to do.
Well, Greg, I'm going to just go back and include the "you whine and cry" in your manly voice.
Oh yeah.
This is your life. That is just so sharp. And I mentioned before, Todd doesn't need any profound play on words. The scenes he describes and creates and the people that he includes into these lyrics really speak for themselves.
Yeah.
Especially that part, "you whine and cry in a manly voice." Oh my. It seems like most men in my family are simultaneously heroes and victims. They see the world like revolving around them, and at the same time, the world keeps them down. And it's this observation that I don't know if it's unique to my family
It's not.
or not, but that's something that contrast, "you whine and cry in a manly voice."
It's a dichotomy. It's really
so
awesome. It's
perfect.
It's competing. It's like this
Yeah.
manliness and then crying. And it's just these competing things that go against each other in this song. And I love the way Todd played that in there.
Right. And that contradiction coupled with like a lack of self-awareness, the people who, they do everything right, but also somehow they can't do anything right. It's this macho, all-powerful male figure who feels somehow victimized by anyone who's not like them. And I love the practicality of Todd's closing words. And I didn't really make that connection with, if you go out into the world, you'll meet these people, you'll realize they're people just like you. And I really love that interpretation, Greg. And I think for my way that I heard this, thinking about it this week, is turn off the TV, put down your phone. If your anger is stemming from a group of people or from the constant negative feed of, for me, last night at 1:30 in the morning, seeing, of viral videos of police, or if it's from states passing oppressive laws and restrictive laws, and just this constant negative weighing down that I kind of bring into onto myself, right? I want to stay informed and I want to be aware, and I don't want to just be like, oh, I don't follow the news, because that just comes with a terrible privilege that I think is just unfair to the people who are living and experiencing the news, for someone to say, I just don't follow it. But I think not to let ourselves be consumed by it. So I said, I'm not going to be a Fox News dad, but I can still be inefficient, and I can be consumed with negativity in a way that won't be best for myself. It won't be best for my family. And trying to be aware that sometimes we could be the source of our own discontent, to do something else, to build something, to make something, or to be something.
And for me, you want to stay informed, right? So for me, an interesting way of staying informed is also to meet people in my community.
Yeah, exactly.
Because talking to people around you is learning, is news, is being informed. Like if you go to like we have a place in Buffalo called the West Side Bazaar, which is a series of restaurants that are from, stalls of food from all over the world. And all of the people who run these stalls are immigrant to the United States and have started these businesses. And if you go and have a conversation with 10 of those people in a row, that's essentially like reading 10 news stories.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That can inform your perspective just as much as being like dialed into WashingtonPost.com's app.
That's such a good point. That's a good point.
That's kind of how I'm seeing it too. Like go out into the world and get your news literally in a conversation, because you will get news when you talk to people. It doesn't always have to be the viral video. It doesn't always have to be the Washington Post or the New York Times, Well, anyway, so before we move on to the concluding section of the show, I have another vocal cover that I want to go into. And this one comes all the way from Norway. It's Michael and Theodore from the hardcore band Gnasher in Norway. They were recording some demos, I think, in their home studio. And then they saw me put this up on Instagram, and they downloaded the song from Propaganda's Bandcamp. And so here we have a version that came all the way from Norway. So let's get it on.
You're not really mad at Iran or Afghanistan. You're mad at the fact that you want to take you anymore. Don't know where she is. You're going crazy in your basement hole. Clicking your remote control. Spinning yourself at the screen. Just remember you're back at work. Where you've been sad, being the little bit. Just for your problem, you can get ahead. No one really laughs at your stories anymore. You're so cynical and mean, so like fucked up boy. Your kids are at the mall. They're just standing there at the wall. You think you tell it like it is. You say you catch the bleeding hearts. But every single day, you just sit there bleeding for yourself. You wanna cry in your melting voice. This is your life. Yeah. You do to yourself things all of your mind. Show us to the world to see your promise to mind. This is your life.
All right. So thank you so much to Michael and Theodore from Gnasher in Norway. That was fantastic. So Keith, did you find any YouTube comments for this particular song?
Yeah. One said, this song is dedicated to all you Fox News watching drones out there, which definitely I think is important. But I, as we said, I think I would extend it to all of us who are binge watching and anger scrolling and doom scrolling, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Not just those, but anyone who is being consumed by their anger.
Yeah, one of the things I always like to do whenever I listen to these songs is I try to turn the mirror on myself a little bit, which I think is a behavior that Chris does really well in his own songwriting as well, which is one of the reasons why I like Propagandy so much, because the band shine the light directly on their own flaws as people consistently. They shine flaws, obviously, on issues all over the world and people all over the world, but, being one's own most powerful critic is you're the only one that can change your life. So I like it how the band shines light on themselves as well. And I found a couple. here's one, such a concise and satisfying ripper.
Yeah.
Love that. And then I found another one that says, I love Todd's hardcore songs. I also love his slow melodic songs like Bringer of Greater Things, Cut into the Earth. Those lyrics are awesome because only Todd could make fun of right wingers this way. But like I said, I'm looking at it beyond just this little narrow partisan gridlock.
Yeah, and I have one more, Greg, from Graziel, our pal from Brazil.
Hey, Grazi.
And this is from the Sulin video that you mentioned from Rocks Off concert cruise in New York City. Grazi said, when I grow up, I want to be a guitar player like you, Sulin. I was just looking through some videos and your free lessons. That's very nice. Cannot wait to see Propaganda live for the first time in Brazil. Cheers. That's such a good video. If you haven't seen that video, pull it up.
It's so good. And Rocks Off is actually a really cool production company. They were the promoters for the Bouncing Souls Gold Record release shows in 2006, which I actually went to in New York City. So I went to 6 nights in a row of the Bouncing Souls in New York City that was promoted by Rocks Off way back in 2006 in the summer. But I love that they do those boat cruises. I think that Every Time I Die does a boat cruise with them also. But that video is so good because it's such a tiny stage and it's like, it's like 1,000,000 degrees in there and Sulin's just shredding and it's just such a party. So Keith, take us out here. What do you got here as far as like lesson takeaways that you'd like for people to consider?
Greg, I remember in a few episodes past, you said that I feel like the band is speaking to me. And I think that's probably my biggest observation here, and perhaps one of the clearest examples of a propaganda song serving as a warning to me, especially in a way that perhaps I just didn't pick up before. It could be easy to point the finger at others, my late stepdad, or other people I have tenuous relationships with, the angry people I know who put down others to lift themselves up. But now that my actions, all of them, implicitly and explicitly, serve as a model for my own child, I'm more concerned about this not becoming my life.
Yes.
Or what my life is. And as I mentioned, what I allow to consume me rather than developing skills or building relationships. So yeah, I'm not going to be the person yelling at the TV, but that doesn't mean I'm in the clear.
Absolutely. Like, to me, this song is a challenge for all of us to look at the imagery presented in this song and to ask yourself now, at whatever age you are today, do you want this to be you? Because it can be you. No doubt about it. We're all doing our best throughout the middle-aged years when people tend to get less curious. And that's one of the things that I love about doing the show with you and doing my other show, is that this keeps my brain ticking. And I easily could be a totally different 37-year-old version of myself. I could be less curious. I could be less passionate. I could have less hobbies. I could be more apathetic. And, this is a warning of like falling into a kids these days judgmental mentality as well.
Yeah, no kidding. Oh, man.
And this tune asks us to stay hungry, man. Stay learning, stay healthy, keep pushing. Life can be a real slog and such a grind in so many ways. But this is a song about human tragedy, addiction, pain, dreams deferred, etc., that any one of us is susceptible to becoming the screaming in the basement hole, clicking your remote control. That can be any one of you out there listening. And I want you all to ask yourselves, how do you see that going for yourself? Do you see this possibly happening to you? Can you see any of these early behaviors in yourself? Is there a way that you can reduce its chance of happening? That's just kind of what I'm thinking about,
Yeah, Greg. Well, I'm going to go ahead and share my rating. When I think of this, the purpose of This Is Your Life, its goal, and I measure that against the other songs in the band's discography, I got to say that this song is easily one of the most effective tracks the band has ever written. It's compelling. There's no wasted time, space, or words. It's painfully relatable. I think it's one of my favorite Todd songs within this style. So I'm giving it a very strong 4.
This is a great song. It's a banger. It's a real world issue that many families are dealing with more and more with each passing year. I feel tremendous empathy for what these families are going through, any family, not just the family presented in the song. And this to me exposes how vulnerable people are to having their perceptions of reality twisted and distorted until we're basically unrecognizable versions of our past selves. We're all vulnerable. We all need to be vigilant about our own consumption of news and media. We need to stay diligent on our media literacy skills. We need to consider what we pass through our social media feeds to loved ones and friends who trust us to be good stewards of information. And we need to be caring and compassionate towards those we have loved or love who fall down into the behaviors exhibited in this song. The people who are the ones who oftentimes are the most ranty are maybe the ones who are crying out for love more than ever. So I'm taking that into consideration as much as I possibly can. And I'm going to give this song also a nice hearty 4. Well, Keith, this has been fantastic. I'm really thrilled that this is the first time I've ever recorded an episode with you from St. Louis, Missouri. And it's been a week of travel, and 7 a.m. recording with you is a totally different experience. But thank you so much for all of our listeners out there who submitted vocal covers for this tune. That was a really cool little feature of this episode. And if you want to reach us, you can email us at propagandypod@gmail.com. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram @propagandypod. Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you next time.